And we'll take you back to our Abuja studio where Ajuri is standing by for something totally different. Ajuri.
Abuja studio. I'm standing by with the managing director of the transmission company of Nigeria to discuss some prevailing issues in the nation's power sector. Mr. Mohammed, you're very welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So when we look at what is unfolding now in the power sector, we've heard, I want to start from recent claims made by the Minister of Power Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, to the effect that the All Progressives Congress-led federal government has done more in the power sector over the last 3.5 years than the preceding 16 years of the opposition People's Democratic Party. That was the claim of the minister. Is that true?
Yeah, I think you have to understand the context under which the minister spoke. If you look at the grid, when the government took over, the capacity of grid in terms of distribution was not more than 3,500, and the capacity of the grid transmission is about 5,000. Generation is hovering around 4,000. Now, if you look at right now, the last peak that was done in December 2017 shows that the combined effort is 5,222, which is the highest in the history of the country. And what does that suggest? That suggests that even the capacity of distribution company, seems to be the weakest in the link, has increased significantly. So that's what it shows. So as we speak now, you know that as of December, the capacity of generation was about 7,000. You know, we are about completely commissioned Azura, which is 450 megawatt, which means it's about 7,400 megawatt. Now, transmission, when we simulated the grid as of December last year, it was 7,124. If you look at what has happened in the last few months, you discover that we have commissioned so many transformers which we have not yet simulated. I can tell you in the last 1.5 months, we have commissioned 1.5 years, we have commissioned more transformers in transmission more than what was done in previous 10 years. So, and you also have to recall that we launched the least cost transmission expansion plan, which was the first in the history of Nigeria. No, not TREM, the least cost transmission expansion.
Okay.
No, the least cost transmission expansion plan, which was done by Fitchner, which shows how we are supposed to expand. So the TREM, Transmission Expansion and Rehabilitation Program, is based on the least cost transmission expansion plan, which was done by Fitchner, which is 20 years, is for 20 years. So, and this has not been done in the past. So we have a methodology of recovering the sector, and everything is moving smoothly. If you look at transmission, we have a plan to stabilize the grid and expand the grid to 20,000 megawatt by 2021. And we are putting redundancy all over the country. You know, when the stability is about investment, we have what we call N-1. N-1 means that you have, anywhere you have the need for 60 kVA, 6 MVA, you put 60 times 2. And that is the plan we are implementing under the Transmission Rehabilitation Expansion Program. So clearly the minister is right that a lot of achievement has taken place now.
So you would understand that Nigerians, when we talk about the Nigerian power sector, our people have become very skeptical when they hear projections. You know, in 2010, when former President Goodluck Jonathan launched the power sector reform roadmap ahead of the privatization, the assurance that was given was that by the year 2020, we would be generating about 40,000 megawatts. Of course, we're nearly in 2019, and we're at about 7,000 something megawatts. In view of some of these projections that have not been met, why should Nigerians now believe you when you say that transmission capacity is going to reach 20,000 megawatts by 2021?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take us by what we have done. You know, it's not just to sit down and say something. You have to take us by what we have done. If you look at what we have done in the last 1.5 years or 2 years, you have seen that massive expansion of the grid and massive injection of money. For information, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, TCN has attracted $1.57 billion. For information, I've worked in the power sector before I moved to the World African Development Bank, and I understand everything that happened in the power sector. I can tell you there was no time, even during the time of PSTN, where the organization attracted more than $200 million in 1 year. So this is what I want to tell you, things have changed. We are not doing things the way it is done before. Recall that we have 800 containers in the port, which were stranded in the port. Some have been there for over 15 years. Some have been auctioned to some people. You recall that in the last 1.5 years, we have recovered, in fact, as at last week, we have recovered 708 out of the 800 containers. So this is the way we are working. So take us by what we have done, not by our projection. If we project, look at what we have done. If you look at right now, we have installed more transformers than what has been done. Let me take, for example, for Lagos, for example.
I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. I certainly don't want to break your thought, but we need to take a short break. Please hold your thought, and you'll conclude it certainly when we come back.
Thank you.
Our viewers, please do stay with us. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily, coming to you live from our Abuja studio. I am speaking this morning with the Managing Director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Mr. Mohammed. Sir, you were just concluding your thoughts.
Yeah. As I was telling you, if you look at Lagos, for example, the line that supplying Lagos Island is the 330 double circuit line from Egbin to Ajah. That line, only one circuit has been in existence for the past 6 years, in the previous 6 years. We have just signed a contract with Siemens to rehabilitate the second phase, which means supplying Lagos Island. Now, even that is not consistent with our N-1 reliability criteria. So we have just started a study that will help us to build a 330 kV line from Akamba to Ijora and then to Alagbon, so that we can supply Lagos Island through Ikeja West and through Egbin. We have also commissioned a study that is helping us to see how we can supply Eco Atlantic through underground and see the feasibility of putting another 132 kV substation in Victoria Island and also at Lagos Island. So, and if you look at between Lagos and Ogun, we are putting 4 330 kV substations. The study has been completed, the finance has been raised, everything has been. The only problem we have is the compensation for the right of way that is very high, that we are working with the Ogun State government to see how we can reduce it and pay them so that we can go ahead. For information, in the history of Nigeria, there was no time that more than 1 330 kV substation is built in one place. But we are putting 4, and I mentioned the places. We are putting one in Ogijo, one in Aribajo,